again, there's only gonna be 5 problems, so hopefully you're gonna get all that done by the end of the period. And you got the whole weekend, you don't have to worry about it. All right, so you don't need your iPad right now, just get your notebook out. Thursday, February 16th. Right here, write this down, it's on the board. That handout I just gave you, I'll get to that in a few minutes. Just have that out, I'll get to it in a few minutes. And again, you're gonna need your calculator. You're gonna need your calculator every day for this stuff. Put this example 1 down here. Now before I show you this, now you see over here, you'll get this later. This is what the homework's gonna be. These 3 problems right here are gonna be like that. I'll get to this in a few minutes right now. Copy down example 1 up there. Now you obviously see what's different here. Andrew, put your paper back there, all right? Home. Here, let me ask you this first. How do you know this is case 1? Somebody? See, you gotta, when it comes time for the test, you gotta know what the cases are. Rob? Because it's 2 angles and a side. It's 2 angles and a side, it's case 1. Obviously, what's different, there's minutes here. Now let me come over here first. I don't even care if you write this down, just watch this. You see this here? Noah, no, get off the iPad. I don't want the iPads out right now, okay? Don't need them. See this right here? How would you do it? Now, you guys gotta remember about minutes now. Look, see what I wrote up here? I don't care if you write this down, but it's gonna come up in the homework. How would you do what I have on the board right there? It isn't that hard, but you gotta remember something here. Jack, what would you do first?
I don't know, or add the minutes.
You would add those minutes, or you would add these 2 angles up. This would be 10, that would be 80, would be 13. Now, you see that? You wouldn't leave that like that, right? Remember what we did here? I'm just reviewing what we've already covered. You would never leave an angle 83 degrees, 80 minutes. What would you convert that to because of what you know about minutes? John?
84 degrees, 20 minutes.
60 minutes is a degree, right? So this would go to 84 degrees, 20 minutes. And then what would you do to find C? What would you subtract from? You gotta remember something here. I'm reviewing this because it's gonna come up in homework. Nick?
179.60.
Yeah, you would write that 179.60 so that you could subtract your minutes like so. Okay? So you got that for the minutes. Now, let's go to the example. Now have your calculators out. Now listen to the little rules that I'm going to give you here. When you use your calculator, it's always decimal degrees, correct? For degrees, something point something degrees. So, if the angles they give you are in minutes, you have to convert to the decimal. Now, can somebody remind me how you do that? See this V here is going to be 20 point, how do we do this? Ethan?
Take that divided by 60.
Take 40 divided by 60. Now listen, so you're all doing the same thing. 2 decimal places when you do this. So if you take 40 divided by 60, on your calculator it's 0.66666, right? So that would be 20 point what to 2 decimal places? Holly.
6, 7.
Now you need to put this in your notebook the way I'm doing it here. Okay, right here. This would be 103 point, take 10, divided by 60. 2 decimal places. Somebody? 103 point, everyone should have identical numbers. Max?
1.7?
2 decimal places.
Yeah.
0.17, correct. 0.17 degrees. Okay, now. What are you gonna do now? Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I should have had you do something else first. Listen to me, everyone. If they give you angles in minutes, then when you find the third angle, it should be in minutes also. I still got to do this for the calculator. So if you add these two together and subtract from, what, 179.60? Can somebody tell me what angle A is? Do you understand? Just like yesterday, you got to add these together and subtract from 180. So this would be what? 123 degrees, 50 minutes. You got to subtract that from 179.60. What is that? How?
56 degrees in 10 minutes.
Now, I converted these to decimal degrees because I'm going to have to go to the calculator next. So, what's that going to be in decimal degrees? 56 point, David? 17 degrees. Everybody good on that? Because to finish this problem now, pretty much the same. Now, does anyone have a question on what this law of sine says, where you set up the proportion? Now, if you use the givens, what are the values that I know both of them for? The b's, right? See, the b's. So I'm going to go 130 b over the sine. Now, you got to write this down. On a test, this has to be written down. B over the sine of 20.67 degrees, and that equals, somebody tell me what the other one's going to be to find C. Find side C. Here's B over sine of B, just like we were doing yesterday, equals, find C. C was there. Jack.
C over the sine of 103.17.
C over the sine of 103.17 degrees. And then in your notebook, right next to that, somebody give me the other proportion to find A. It's the same as yesterday right now. This would be the proportion to find C. Somebody give me the proportion to find A, because that's the only other side I got to find. What's the matter? This is the same as yesterday right now. John.
A over the sine 56.17.
A over the sine of what?
56.17.
56.17 degrees equals, and then the B over the sine of the B is going to stay the same. Now, I hope when I check that homework that I'm going to see these proportions written down. That's what you must write down. This calculator. Now, does anyone have a question on how you're going to use a calculator for all this? Now look up here again. C will equal this times this divided by this. You all clear on that? That's what I was doing yesterday. All right, boys. Punch away. Put it in your calculator. Do it, everybody. You got to make sure you're all getting the right answers. Take this times this and divide it by that. That's going to be side C. And then over here, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to take this times this and divide it by that to find side A. You're rounding to the nearest tenth. Anyone? Side C. The calculator's doing everything, but you gotta make sure you're punching your keys correctly. Alex, what do you got?
364.2.
364 point, what did it say after that?
Oh, wait, no, that's one.
Point one, that's right. 364.1. Does anyone have a question on how you use the calculator for this? This times this divided by this. Over here, it's this times this divided by that. Go ahead, do that one. Everybody's answer should be identical. No deviation at all. Ethan.
310.6.
That is correct. 310.6. Now, look at what's up here. So them first three problems for homework, it will be like this. With the minutes, so get the two places, get the third one, write the two proportions, go to the answer. Everybody good on that? Okay, look at the paper I just gave you now. Look at the paper I just gave you. It said, Andrew, you need a paper? Here. Send that back. Look at the paper I just gave you. Case 2, given two sides and an angle opposite one of the other sides. Given two sides and an angle opposite one of the sides. Now, guys, this is how I'm going to do this today. You see part 1? I'm not doing that today. I'm going to save that for next Tuesday when we get back to school. But you see what part 1 says? It says the given angle is an acute angle. What does that mean first? If the angle is acute. It's less than 90. I'm going to do part 2. Part 2 says when the given angle is obtuse. Now, let's see if you can understand this. Look at example 1 at the bottom. Now, you don't have to write this down because it's right on your paper. But here's what you need to understand. Now, that's on the paper at the bottom, example 1. You got to know on a test or a quiz that that's case 2. Now look what case 2 says again. Given two sides, and you can see that, and an angle opposite one of the sides. Now look up here. And there's the two sides, obviously. And an angle opposite one of those two sides. Well, angle A is opposite side A, correct? You understand that? So this is case 2. Now, down in that little space down there, there's not much there. Let's say this is angle A. Well, if that's 104 degrees, that's obtuse. So, I don't know, be about that, right? There's 100 for angle A there. In that little space at the bottom, watch what's going to happen here. Draw this. Here, let's say this is B and this is C. Now, you want to look on the study sheet? Look at part 2. Given angle is obtuse, it says if the opposite side is less than or equal to the adjacent side, no triangle may exist. Now you got to pay attention here. I'm going to tell you why. But it says if the opposite side is greater than the adjacent, one triangle exists. Can one of you tell me what the word ambiguous means? That's just a vocab word of the day. See case 2 up there? It says ambiguous case. What's that word mean? Can someone just give me in your own words the definition? You never heard of that word before? I bet you have. Ambiguous. Just in your own words, what does that word mean? Ambiguous. What's it mean? So now, are you doing something back there? Do you have anything on your lap?
No.
You keep looking down there like you're doing something all the time.
Something on my pants.
Huh?
I have something on my pants.
What does ambiguous mean? Nobody knows. 10th and 11th graders, you never heard that word before. Ambiguous. Yes.
Like unknown and mysterious.
I'll take that. There's something you don't know for sure. Look at what I'm saying here if it's obtuse. Now look up here. Which of these sides is the opposite side? With the givens there. Look. Which of these sides would be the opposite side? Look at the angle. You got to understand this, or you're going to be all screwed up in this case. Boys, this ain't a hard question. Here's the two sides, there's the angle. Which of these two sides is the opposite side to the angle? That's all I'm asking. Chris?
A.
Well, hey, it's got to be opposite angle A, right? B must be the adjacent side. Doesn't adjacent mean right next to it? Wouldn't side A be up here? That's B. Wouldn't side B be right there? Watch this. How does the opposite side compare to the adjacent? Look at the numbers. Is the opposite side bigger than the adjacent? Look at the information. Is the opposite side bigger than the adjacent? Adam?
No.
It is not. Look at my little figure here. This side's smaller than this side. Do you see what I'm trying to show you here? I could never connect that triangle. It wouldn't reach. Now, let me go through this again. You got to understand this. The opposite side is smaller. The adjacent side is the one right next to the angle. The opposite side is over here. But do you see? If that's an obtuse angle, wouldn't that side have to be the biggest side? Wouldn't it? Do you see why I'm stopping there? It wouldn't reach. It would never connect. What I'm trying to tell you is, look on the study sheet. You see where it says, if the opposite is less than or equal to the adjacent, it says no triangle may exist. So believe it or not, on a test, that's why I didn't have a lot of room down there, you would simply say, no triangle, but you'd have to tell me why. And all you would have to say is, the opposite is less than or equal to the adjacent. Now, in that little space on the handout, this is what you got to put down. Who has a question on that? There's nothing to do if that problem appeared on the test. Do you understand that? Everybody. The opposite is less than or equal. So don't just say on the test, no triangle, and that's all you say. You got to tell me why. I don't care if you draw this. You don't have to draw it. But the opposite is less than or equal to the adjacent, so there's no triangle. Now, look at example 2. And then I'm done after this. Now you're going to write right on the handout. B is 113.72 degrees. Side A is 189.6, and side B is 243.8. Okay, this ain't gonna take long. How would you know what this is on a test? That appeared on a test. How do you know what case it is? Now, I've only covered 2 cases so far. How would you know what that is on a test? You have to recognize the case. I'm not gonna tell you. Nathan, let's.
It has 2 sides and an angle.
Opposite one of the sides. It has 2 sides and an angle opposite one of the given sides. What if that said angle C? It's not case 2, is it? C ain't opposite one of those sides. That'll be another case. We'll get to that later, next week. Now, is this going to be no triangle or one triangle? All you got to do, look at the handout. I got it all written out. Part 2. This is all I'm doing here. Part 2. How does the opposite compare to the adjacent? That's all you got to look at. How does the opposite compare to the adjacent? Ethan.
It's greater than equal.
It's bigger. So if that's the case, I would be able to connect that and I would have a triangle. Do you understand that? This problem is one triangle. You know how you're going to solve this now? I'm going to use the same law of sine I gave you yesterday. So, in that space, b over the sine of b, now watch, because something's going to come up here that's a little different. B over the sine of b, write it down, equals, okay, what's the other fraction going to be there? That's not for you. Joe, close the back door, please. B over the sine of b equals, what's the other one going to be? Just use your given information here. Ethan?
VA
189.6 over
sine
the sine of,
A.
that's right, you don't know it yet. Who has a question on what you see there? Now, watch this. This right here is my unknown. Sine of A equals, now, with your calculator, watch this. It's going to be this times this divided by that, right? Now, go on your calculator and do that. I want to know what this decimal is. This times this divided by that. It's going to be a long decimal. Are you with me? This times this divided by that is going to be what the sine of A is. I need the numbers. You should have a long string of decimal places there. And everyone should have the same. Give me the 4-digit decimal. Just give it to me to 4 digits. Don't clear your calculator though. What's the matter? You all should be there already. You got to make sure you're doing this correctly. You all got different calculators. You got to know what you're doing here. What would be the 4-digit decimal? Andrew.
0.712.
All right, tell me what it says. 0.7.
7119.
What else does it say after that?
89397.
All right, let me just stop there. 0.7119 and whatever else is on your calculator. A 4-digit decimal. Don't clear it out of your calculator, because do you know how you're going to get this angle now? You got to remember something you learned early on in the year. You got to use the inverse sine key to give you the angle. Second function sine key, the sine to the minus first key on your calculators. If the sine of A equals this, now you know that long decimal that's in your calculator? Don't clear it out. Just go inverse sine of that. It should be giving you the angle, fellas. And you got to make sure you all know how to do this. Can you give me the angle? Just round it to the nearest tenth. Right? Angles, we're going to the nearest tenth. John.
45.4.
Look, I got to stop here. On a test, you got to listen to what I want to see. I want to see the proportion. I want to see this. And I want to see, you don't have to write the whole thing out, but I want to see the 4-digit decimals, which would be what here? 0.711. Well, this 8 would bump this to a 0, which would bump that to a 2, right? So what would that be to a 4-digit decimal? If you rounded it, this 8 would bump this to a 0, which would bump that 1 to a 2. So what would the 4-digit decimal be there? David?
0.72.
Be that, wouldn't it? So are you listening to what, because you're only going to have 2 problems like this. I want to see that, but don't clear your calculator out. Keep that long decimal on it. For purposes of the test, you can just write that down to 4 digits and then go to this. Yes?
So we don't plug in an inverse sine of that, we just use the A one? Like we only write down the 4 digits, but we use the
Yeah, but you're writing it down on the test paper, your homework. But leave it all in your calculator.
Alright, that's good.
Then just go second function key sign, and everyone should get 45.4. What's the only thing left to get up here now? And then you're gonna start doing this. Okay, there's B, there's A, so go ahead, add angle A and B, and subtract it from 180. Do that, that'll give you angle C. Now that you got A, add A to B and subtract from 180. Can someone give me that? Round it to the nearest 10. Your calculator's gonna do everything for you. Add A to B and subtract from 180. Anybody? Ethan, what do you got? 20.9 degrees. What's the only thing left to find? You gotta find all the missing parts. What's the only thing left to find here? Howard?
Side length from C.
Okay, so we're gonna go B over sine of B again. You gotta write the proportion over the sine of 113.72 equals side C over the sine of, here it is right here, you just found it, 20.9. Okay, away you go. Look, this times this divided by this has to be C. Anybody, as soon as you get it, what do you got? Round it to the nearest 10. Actually, tell me what your display says, Dave.
It's in 94.99, that's even 95.
So 94.99 will just make that an even 95 if you round to the nearest 10th, right? Now, take your iPad out, please. Listen to the directions here. Take a picture of this.